Hello everybody, my name is Crystal, and a friend of mine sent me this link about Israel Houghton and Adrian. This article, apparently there's some ruffled feathers about who she is and what she looks like and all the previous scandal that went on with Israel Houghton that went on years ago that somebody decided to put up on the social media here recently. Who cares, right? Okay, but here's the issue. Another article was posted today regarding, and I'm going to be looking side to side because I want to address some points. I have two articles from two different people. And my friend Lisa, I'll leave her last name out, she wanted to know what I thought because I used to do Blog Talk Radio. Very great show. And we had a good time, very controversial. And I'm part of the reason why it was very controversial. I don't take sides. I just stand wherever I believe the truth lies. So now there seems to be an issue of women being a little salty because of the way men of God are choosing their companions. So now let me address this point. The title of the article says, how come women are told to wait on the Lord for a godly man, but men are praised for doing just the opposite? So they're addressing this picture of Israel Houghton with this young lady, Adrian, and there's an issue of whether or not he's setting a good example as a man of God. So now, my thing is there's a lot of assumptions. I read a lot of the comments, and there's a lot of assumptions going on. And so I said that I would respond. She wanted me to respond, and I said that I would. But I didn't feel like typing up this big, long, giant statement. I saw a whole lot of these long statements, and I didn't feel like putting that kind of time into it. But it did ruffle me a little bit because of all the time we're putting in, and the judgments that we're making, and the assumptions that we're making. First of all, we don't know what Israel Houghton is doing. We don't know really who he is. We don't know Adrian, what she's about. People are going off of a picture. They're looking at other celebrities, men who are supposedly in the body of Christ, which we can't judge either. And we're looking at the type of women that they're choosing. And the truth is, we don't know these women. And my question is, why do we care who they're with or how their companions look? I don't see any men on this feed complaining about what Israel Houghton is doing or any other male celebrities who are supposedly entertainers in the church world, okay, quote unquote. Now, let me address a point here. It says here, you may have read the article because I'm posting under it. It says, reader, I read a very interesting Facebook post by Dr. Alexis Maston. She makes a good argument about the double standard for men and women in the church. Let me address that. Yes, there is a double standard. And you know why there's a double standard? Because we fell for something that we didn't have to fall for. Let me address this. If you're sitting up in church miserable because somebody behind a pulpit, male or female, told you to sit on a church bench and look like a freaking Quaker and dress in black and white with flat heels on and uncomfortable stockings, and God is going to come and send your Prince Romeo and sitting right down next to you, you were lied to. And if you fell for that, because they put a scripture to it that they misinterpreted, then we have to take some accountability for that. That's not what God said. That's not God's will. And there is no one particular person, specific person, that you have to say is suitable for one person or is not suitable for another person. Who is to say that? Who is to say that? So now we've got women all discombobulated saying, why do they get to choose these type of women and we're told to sit down in church and just be still and wait on God? Well, help me, Lord. Here's the deal. When you hear a message from behind the pulpit or from behind the desk at work, or when you hear any type of information being fed into your psyche, the last decision about the word you've heard should not be what was told to you from behind the pulpit. After you hear what you hear, you should go home and have a conversation with your creator about what you heard from behind another desk or behind a pulpit. And then you make a decision. And I promise you, half the pressure that you think you're supposed to be up under and all of this false religious submission that you think you're supposed to be under, you'll find that it is false. You'll find that it is man's way and sometimes women's way to manipulate and keep you in a certain space, in a certain building, living a certain way. So much of it is garbage. And I remember one time when I fell for it. There was a time when I fell for the nonsense. And I wasted a lot of years being a single woman thinking if I just sat plainly and I didn't do anything with my appearance and I just sat humbly. We think ugly is humble. That's so wrong. Please open up your own Bible. If you're going to include the church in your statements and your ideas and your assumptions, please get the proper interpretation. Don't wait and take someone else's idea for it. Now, let me look at this here. Let's see. Alexis Maston, she says. And this is not a jump on Miss Maston at all, but she does summarize a lot of the feelings and comments that are in this feed here. She says, let's see. How come women are told to wait on the Lord for a godly man, but men are praised for doing the opposite? Yes, a man who is saved can sanctify a woman once she's a wife, but women are given the argument, don't date no heathen, etc., etc. All I'm saying is, can men have the same standard that the church has placed on women? Now, when you're talking about the church, who are you talking about? When you say the church has placed, are you talking about the church that Jesus talked about, or are you talking about what some leadership in certain churches will tell you? Now, if you just went on what man told you and you didn't go and consult with God, then you believe some religious psychobabble. And you've wasted some time. You've wasted some years believing this. And now you got to go back. First, take responsibility and accountability for thinking that you had to be shut down, that you had to be so meek and lowly, and that meek and lowly meant being a non-participant in your own growth. If you think that you can't even go and buy a brand new pair of shoes without getting your pastor's permission, you have been manipulated, brainwashed. It's so sad because so many women have fallen into that trap, and there's nothing godly about it. You have to know for yourself what understanding you and God have about His Word, and not worry about what man is dating who. What difference does it make? And why do you care? You wouldn't care unless you felt somewhat slighted by the control that was placed on you, or shall I say the control you allowed to be placed on you. Because let's face it, no spiritual leader of any kind went out in the street, grabbed you by the hand, and told you, come into this building, sit right here, and do everything that I say. You chose to go into that building or submit yourself to a certain denomination. You chose to listen to what they said. You chose to do what they told you to do. You chose to give the way they told you to give, and you took no thought for what it is that God was saying to you about your life, or whether or not you were even supposed to be in any particular assembly. You were taught not to question anything, and therefore you were manipulated in a lot of things. And so you know what the deal is? A lot of men are not in church because they know game. And when they hear manipulation, and when they hear that word being manipulated, they don't fall for it. They're going to do what they want to do. And when they mess up, God will forgive, and they go on and get somebody else. Case in point, look at certain individuals who you're giving all this attention to. It's not about Israel Houghton. It's not about Adrian. It's not about the double standard. It's about what women have fallen for years. It's the stuff that we allowed ourselves to be taught, that we didn't go double check because we were too lazy to see about our own spiritual growth. And we wanted the person behind the pulpit to be our pseudo father, our pseudo mother, and tell us what to do when we were grown and perfectly capable of going to God for ourselves and knowing what He wanted us to do, who He wanted us to be with, what He wanted us to wear, where He wanted us to work. And a lot of this stuff God doesn't even care about. We serve a God who gives us liberty and freedom. Okay? And if you don't feel that, then you put yourself up under some bondage. You did that. And so free yourself up. Free yourself up. Get free. Start all over again. Get yourself together. Get your appearance together. Dump all your issues and baggage that you have. Yeah, there's a double standard. But no one can push a double standard on you unless you choose to buy into it. Now, if you believed it, then we first got to point the finger at ourselves. And then you have to undo what you allowed someone else to put into your life as a lifestyle. And it really wasn't God. So don't get mad at what anybody else is doing. Okay? We can't judge anybody. Who's righteous? None of us are righteous except through Jesus. Nobody. So we can't say who's equally yoked. How do you know that? Maybe the women you see don't look the way you think they ought to look, but maybe they cook. Maybe they all right with having sex more than once a month. Maybe they don't bug the man when he first walks in the door. Maybe she takes a little bit of time with her appearance. Maybe she's trendy. She's with the fashion. I mean, come on. Men are visual. And while you sitting on the bench being holy and looking mean and sour-faced, he's looking at the sister that did take the time to go do something with her appearance. And you don't know whether she believes in God or not. But if he chose her, there was a reason why he chose her. If it was the right reason, that'll come out in the wash. If it was the wrong reason, that'll come out in the wash. So what I'm saying in closing is that you take the initiative to find out why you allow the double standard to be shoved down your throat by another human being. Because God is not about double standards and bondage. He's not. He's about freedom and peace and joy and liberty and prosperity. That's what I read. And when I stopped listening to what was being fed to me behind a pulpit or a desk, and I decided to do some reading on my own and get a closer walk with God, then I understood things a lot clearer. So look, hey, check it. You see a young man that you want to see, you're interested in, please stop making an appointment and bothering your pastor about whether or not you think he the one. Just walk up to the brother and say, hey, how you doing? Would you just walk up to the man and say hello? Get yourself together, okay? Pull yourself together. Make some friends. Socialize. Get into some committees. Get into some clubs. Go out and be in the world and enjoy your life without losing your spirituality and who you are with God. That's personal. That's a personal relationship. Other than that, we live in this world. And don't be frustrated when other people live in it and they're enjoying it. It doesn't mean they're in sin. They just didn't buy into some of the stuff that we bought into. Okay, check it out. Think it over. Thanks for listening.